Welcome everybody. This is Christy Ross here with Planted Places, and I have Mary Sheila Gonnella with Occidental Nutrition. Hello.
Oh,
This is great. Mary Sheila and I have, we've known each other for a few years, and I got introduced to you through some mutual friends. And because what you're doing and your past history, which I'm going to have you go into, is like so on point with what I stand for and what I like to talk about, which I'll go into. But just real quick, you guys, Mary Sheila, she is a certified holistic nutritionist. I'm going to say this word wrong, Ayurvedic practitioner, educator. You teach at multiple colleges. You have a lot of wonderful programs that you put, blood sugar reset, detox, fermentation. I mean, it goes on and
Vitality
on.
Club. Yeah.
Yes, yes. You've got your Vitality membership, which is a monthly membership. You do so many great things. And you do your food summit. You've been doing, I think, 3 years now, where you
Yes.
interview 20 plus people from everywhere. A lot of people might be interested. One of the people that you interviewed this year, which I thought was so amazing, was the president of the Organic Regenerative Alliance. So, you got to teach everybody about that in addition to nutrition, which is kind of the core of it all. But let's just kind of jump in and we'll do our introductions. Guys, it's spring, it's National Nutrition Month. And of course, so timely for us to talk about nutrition. And I've got some interesting stats I want to share later, and how to make this really easy for everybody. But Mary Sheila, tell us real quick before I kind of give my background. Talk about who you are, because I just think you're so amazing.
I think we fell in love with each other the first time we talked.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, my name's Mary Sheila, and I live in Sonoma County, in West Sonoma County in Occidental, and I've been here a pretty long time, and I've been in the nutrition field for 15 years now, and I have a focus in my practice a lot on blood sugar and hormone balance, and I also work a lot with people who have autoimmunity, and kind of all kinds of things. I mean, I really try to, we all want to have vitality and we all want to feel good and do the things we want to do. And so it's really about learning how we can really nourish our best asset. And for some of us, it's really, we have to like climb out of the weeds. Like we might be really sick, and, diet and lifestyle play such a huge role in how we can feel better. So, it's one thing to think, oh, I need to eat better, but it's also sometimes important to know why. So in my heart of hearts, I'm a teacher. So I love to share and teach so that people are like, oh, okay, now I understand why I should be doing that. And so there's more incentive, more motivation. And then, it's also like, then how do I do that? And what are the steps I have to take? So it's teaching people and, being in the kitchen together, even if it's virtual, whatever it is. And just, the education, the inspiration, the community, and just learning then how to like let ourselves unfold into vitality, because that's our birthright. And, there's a lot of forces against that. So it's like, we kind of have to really step into that ourselves and do. Sometimes it's hard work. Sometimes it's just a little tweaking and pivoting, but all in all, we can feel amazing.
Well, and what's so great about what you said too is it's almost like the foundational helping people. It's also, it's very custom kind of to people and their background and, and their lifestyle. And I love how you say, like, kind of get to that, right? Like, what is it that really is, going to work for you, given your circumstance, your background, your uniqueness, right? And otherwise, you're right, because otherwise people don't have the motivation to make the changes, right? Or create the habits, because a lot of it's habits, right? So super, super interesting. Love that. And so we'll talk about some of that stuff. And one of the things that in terms of Planet Places, so my background, I'm a perfect student for you, because I came from tech, and I was an entrepreneur in the first .com wave. Oh my gosh. And then I was in finance technology for a long time, executive and startups, things like that. And so I had a stressful life, right? And I had pretty much like my biome like was pretty shot. didn't really realize it at the time, and was not a very healthy. I thought I was eating healthy, right? But it was my lifestyle and so many other factors as well that came into play. And and it would be nice too for you to touch upon your background a little bit, because I think there's some that comes into play there. But what was, so really, I wanted to start a company that, I was just felt really passionate about, that really is going to help people understand. And so really Planted Place's mission is really to educate, inform, and influence people about the larger food system that we live in, and how that impacts our health, how that impacts our planet and planet's health. And, kind of part of that is, how do you make it easy? You got to educate people, but then how do you make it easy for people to do this? How do we make it easy for them to grow their own nutrient dense food? And, and really who I'm talking to is probably a lot of these people on LinkedIn, but just people, busy professionals who, you're educated, right? You know that you need to be healthy. In the media, there's so much information now about what's happening with our, our food system and everything. And so we're very educated, but sometimes it kind of stresses us out more, right? Because it's like, well, all right, well, what can I do? What can how can I make an impact on my health and the larger, the larger world? How do I think about that? And so we really do that by, we manufacture a vertical gardening system. We have a planting service, a subscription service where we send people the organic seedlings, the organic amendments, soil, and we even plant it for you and ship it to you. And so we kind of do it. We do the pieces that are what people get scared about and go, oh my God, I have a green thumb. Not a green thumb. I don't have a green thumb. I have a green thumb now.
Yeah, you can learn it, right? You're not born with it, but you can evolve. Just like you don't be born as a good cook, but you can become a good cook.
Exactly. And it's kind of like this, behind me here is a picture of the walls. And, it's kind of like, wow, I'm growing that, and so, and so a lot of it though, is you still, let's be practical. A lot of people get intimidated and go, Christy, oh my God, I love what you're doing, but I really can't do it. And so my whole thing is, let me kind of take away the obstacles, if you will. And one of those is time to plant, time to go to the nursery and know what to buy. And so we plant it for you, we ship it to you, and then you slide it into your wall. Another area is like, I don't have time to water. Okay, well, we have a watering system that automatically waters it for you, right? And another thing is space, right? I don't think I have enough space, and that's where the vertical nature comes in. So it's exciting, and it's something I love talking about. But more important is I love to talk about what you started the whole conversation around, which is, kind of getting to the ground of why do people need to worry about this and how can we do this for ourselves? So I like to start out with the stat that of course is out there, and I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen, and hopefully it's going to pop right over to it. And that is, here we go. This Rodale Institute. Now, Rodale Institute, probably, a lot of people know about them, or if they don't, these guys have been around for, 80 years, I want to say. And they really are the kind of founder of regenerative agriculture, I should say, in terms of bringing that to America and training our farmers about what does it mean for regenerative agriculture, and how do you change from conventional means, which is use of pesticides and tilling and all of the practices that are so hard on the soil, and also, producing food that's not as healthy. And so they do a lot of research. I mean, that's part of what they're doing. And so I love the stats they just have come out with, which is basically a lot of people say, okay, great, I'm gonna make sure that I don't have pesticides or insecticides, but am I still getting the same nutrition? And studies are now showing that actually really organic is more nutrition, 25% more nutrients in organic produce than the conventionally grown produce. And then even more important, 40 to 60% more antioxidants are in organic foods. And so a lot of people will say, what is an antioxidant? Like, well, what is that? And so I know you were the perfect person to ask about that, and why that's so important.
Well, the antioxidants, sometimes they're the phytonutrients. They're the things that really protect the plant. Because if you think about it, like a plant right now, it's springtime, but it's raining and it's windy, right? So the plants have protections. Like they can handle that. And then guess what? In a month or 2 or 3, it might be like 105, and they're going to withstand that. They have protections. There might be bugs or pests. There might be mold or mildew or whatever in the soil. And so those are what protect the plants, and even vitamins and minerals that the plants at the roots are pulling up. And we do need good soil to ensure that good, nutrient density in the greens, just like that picture you're showing right now. So it is really important to, those antioxidants become basically, one simple way to think about them is, if we have inflammation, right, that is like, you can think of it as like, oh, it's hot, there's too much fire in the house or whatever. Like inflammation is inflammatory, and antioxidants are like the cooling agents. It's like it brings it down. They're the vitamins, the minerals, the phytonutrients. And really what they are too is they are the parts of the plants that are protective to the plants to thrive in the elements. And so often they're the colors that we see. They're the, things that are like kind of on the edges, on the surface of the plants, right? In the plant cell membrane, and they support us in that same layer, which we call the epithelial layer of like our blood vessels and all of our linings. So that's where things get damaged, right? So like high cholesterol and all that, that's where it gets damaged. And the antioxidants are there to lend a hand and help bring down inflammation and free radicals and oxidants and things that oxidize in the body. Oxidation is natural, so we want to counteract that oxidation with antioxidants.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. And it's interesting when you say when you look at lettuce or leafy greens sometimes and they're so shiny, right? And that's,
Yes.
I remember one time I was at like a Nourished festival and someone came up to me and they're like, is that plastic? Like they were like touching the Swiss chard. They couldn't believe it. I was like, no, this is real food and this is really healthy food. That's why it looks like that. So
Yes, I know. I tried to save seeds one year from a friend of mine because it was like, and I called it like Miriam's like shiny kale because it was just like so shiny.
shiny kale.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's so great. Yeah, no. And it's like, so when look at this, it's like, okay, we really do want to be eating organic. And then we also want to be eating, like, I love to, let me see if I can show this on here. It may not be coming up here for me, but, is fresh, fresh is best. And why we talk about that is, UC Santa Cruz has done a lot of studies around nutrient depletion once you harvest something. And
Mhm.
so, we're in California, so we're sort of lucky that we live near a lot of farmers markets and such and things. But even still, when you go to the grocery store, chances are that produce has probably traveled 3 to 5 trips when you think about it, from like the farm to the distribution center to the truck to the warehouse and then into the store. And so a lot of hands touching it on its way to those shelves. And so, and all along the way, it's losing nutrition. So spinach, of course, I was shocked when I heard this is the biggest culprit, which is within 24 hours, it loses up to about 90% of its vitamin C.
Oh,
And
yeah. Vitamin C is very sensitive of a vitamin. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, and then others, anywhere from 15 to 77% within the first 7 days. So of course, it just kind of then tells you, wow, okay, not to put more pressure on you, but it's like we want to try to grow what we can, right? And things that are easy, and also things that take up a lot. Like for instance, lettuce in particular takes a lot of water to grow. And it also is the stuff that wilts the fastest. When you buy it and you like at the grocery store and you bring it home, and then it's like, I got to eat that thing fast, right? And so those are the kinds of things we try to grow a lot, is the greens because of that. And also they're just easy to grow, right? There's not a lot of waiting around. So I'd love for you to talk about, because again, back to our initial question here, just like, okay, how do we make this easy, Christy? Because I want to do this.
Totally.
So talk to us a little bit about, kind of why the leafy greens, kind of what is the importance of this? And then just how can we get this into our diet?
Definitely. Definitely. Do you
Yeah,
want to stop your share?
for sure. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So, so many of the things you said are so right on, and I love hearing the science behind it, and really that like fresh is better, right? And and the solution you provide is like not only it's also so beautiful, and it's such a
Right.
great space saver as well, because not everybody has a big garden or this and that, but like they desire that freshness. So you said it so well. The fresher it is, the more vitamins and minerals it's going to have. And there's lots of different kinds of green plants and vegetables. Some of them belong to the cruciferous family, some to, there's just different families. And, a lot of them contain a lot of sulfur, a lot of them contain a lot of folate and B vitamins. So like, this is essential for even our nervous system, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm a student of Dr. Terry Walls, who has MS, and I'm a Walls certified practitioner. And, in her protocol, she talks about what healed her from being in a wheelchair to like now, wanting to change the world with her message around food is, 9 cups of colorful vegetables every day to support and heal the myelin sheath and the nerves and, the body when there's an autoimmune condition. And so like the more we can get in there, right? Whether, you're omnivore or whatever kind of way you eat, we want to be primarily plant-based. We want to eat a lot of plants and then supplement it with our proteins, right? And that's going to be key. So, that's key. And so I want to just share a few ways we can add more greens in.
And you know
Right.
what, real quick, let me interject
Yeah.
for a second, because you just said a really important 9 cups of colorful vegetables. So that can be, I mean, those are your greens, but those are also your root vegetables, right? I mean, those.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So
Okay.
she does break it down. So your first category, you want to get it 3 cups of sulfur greens. So that's or sulfur vegetables, and that's going to be the cruciferous. So the kale, the arugula, the mustard, and then that also includes like broccoli, cauliflower,
Yeah.
Brussels sprouts, right?
Mhm.
And also onions and garlic. So those all have a lot of sulfur. So those are going to support a lot of the detox pathways. And then we also want to get leafy greens, 3 cups of leafy greens, and then 3 cups of colored, right? So that could be like the beets and even the blueberries and,
Okay.
all the different colors. So, and again, sometimes I always think, Dr. Walls, that sounds overwhelming, 9 cups. But if you have 3 meals a day, you can get 3 servings at each meal, and boom, you're right in business. And, if you are listening to this going, ooh, like I'm only getting like 2 or 3 in a day, then start to try to get like 1 or 2 more, and then just build it up. You don't have to like, add so many that you might not, might be feeling like too much food, right? So so take it slow. But
Okay, so let me just this is great. It's a great lead into what you're about to tell us too. So I'm such a, okay, I got to make a process out of this. So this is great. So this is just 3 cups of your sulfur, kind of more rich, and you put onions in there, which was.
onions and garlic, yeah. And mushrooms are in there as
And
well.
mushrooms. Okay, so all of a sudden it starts becoming much more attainable. It's like, okay. And then you've
Yes.
got your leafy greens, which are your lettuces and kale and that type of thing, correct?
Yep. So some of
Yeah.
the families kind of intermixed, some of
They
the
kind of
greens.
do. Yeah, that's very true. And then the last one, okay, the last one is a colorful. So like your strawberries and your blueberries, in addition to like your carrots and your beets. Okay, so extends. Apples.
Apples. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
apples are,
Okay.
I don't know if apples completely make it into those, but
Yeah.
I think with apples, she sometimes says like, once you've done that, then have the apple.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Right.
I'm not like, her way or no way. Like apples are great. I mean, I love, especially in the fall. I mean, my apples lasted a long time this year. I love to dice up apples and throw them into my salad, and I love them when they're a little sour. I like, and it's funny how I was eating my sour apples and then we just bought some apples. I was like, oh, these are almost too
So
sweet.
you're not, yeah,
Like, where's
your
the
palate's
tartness?
not used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like, putting them in things so that they, because they've got a lot of malic acid. They support the liver. They're great fiber. They can help your bowels move if you struggle with that. So yeah, I mean, every
Yeah.
food has its value. Every whole food has its value.
Perfectly stated. Whole food. Yeah.
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 Yeah, totally.
Great. Okay, jump on into it then.
Okay. So one of my favorite ways so I'm going to talk about 5 ways to add more greens into your life, right? Okay.
Mhm.
So number 1 is pesto. OMG, like making your own pesto. You can buy it too. So do what works for you. But and I want to tell you, pesto is not limited to just basil. Like basil pesto is delicious. Don't get me wrong, but it's also, if you are gardening, it's like it needs more heat. It's not
Yeah.
really
It's a
here
summer
right now.
thing,
It's a
right?
summer thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I actually have a little thing you can grab of a couple recipes of different ways you can use pestos or make pesto. So like I just made one the other day for a class I was teaching, and we put A little different than my recipe there, but we put some leek, we put some cilantro, we put some fennel, like a whole fennel,
Oh,
made this beautiful pesto. You can also make nettle pesto. So, and you can also say, oh, like you can make a kale pesto. You could be like, what do I have? Or you can make a
mhm.
kale pesto and throw like a little rosemary, parsley, cilantro, like, you could, so like with
Interesting.
what's behind you on your wall, you could just like kind of grab and just make
Yeah.
a beautiful
Yeah.
pesto. And then think about like, if you're, when you make a pesto, maybe you do a pasta, maybe you do like a quinoa, maybe you slather it on, a sweet potato, but like you can make a pesto and you're adding all these greens because they're really breaking down. You have raw oils. Sometimes you put raw seeds or nuts. It's like such a nutritive, yummy way to add
Oh,
a load of flavor. And again, when you make a pesto, you have all these greens and boom.
they just go, well, and that's okay. That was my question I was going to ask. That's so interesting. So like, yeah, maybe you're starting with 3 cups and then it's going to
Yeah,
go boom, but like you're still getting the benefit of the 3 cups. It's just
totally. You're
mixed.
using a
Yeah.
tablespoon, like that is concentrated
Yeah.
greens.
Yeah.
Yes. And so it
Okay.
doesn't have to be like a dried green powder that you're putting into things, you can make things yourself. So I've got you covered on if you want to see my pesto with variations, right?
Thank you so much for that. Yeah. We'll
Yes.
put a link definitely. Yeah.
Yes. And then the other one, another way to add more is to kind of think outside the box, right? So some people really love having like oatmeal for breakfast, right? Well,
Mhm.
you can make a savory oatmeal. So you could take some greens, like a couple of my favorites might be like spinach or kale and even cilantro, chop them up, put them into your oatmeal, right? Because a lot of times people say they have oatmeal, and then I'm like, well, that's fine, but what do you put in it? And they're like, oh, maple syrup or brown sugar and bananas and this and that. And it's like you suddenly make it like dessert, right? So
Right.
you can make it savory. So you can throw down whatever greens. Sometimes you could put like a little, like maybe coconut or Bragg's aminos and like a little nutritional yeast and maybe
Ah.
like a pat of butter. And then you're going to be like, oh, it's a
Oh,
really
right.
nice, like, or, way to have something traditional, but like add greens. Cause I always like to tell people to add greens for breakfast. And some people are like, wait a minute, greens for breakfast. So
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah.
yeah,
Or they
there's
think I'm
ways you
just
can
going to
do
put
it.
in my eggs. That's literally all I ever think about. So that
Exactly,
makes a lot.
exactly,
Oh, I love
exactly.
that. Okay.
I mean, you could
Good.
even like, if you're somebody that likes like maybe yogurt or, cottage cheese and like nuts and berries, you could even chop up some greens and put and mix it in with your cottage cheese or yogurt, like kind of
Okay.
like a raita. You can make it and add some spices and you could kind of like make a raita and then you add the other stuff on top. So,
Ah, okay. Okay.
yeah.
And it's interesting because everything else, all the flavors, it's not overpowering the flavor because
No,
you've got,
no.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it could be like if you put, like sometimes arugula can be kind of spicy and you might be like, oh, so
Depends
you
on
have
what
to
you
be a
want.
little
Yeah.
mindful about like even if you add a little arugula to a pesto, you might want to just add less, right? You
Yeah.
kind of have to like know your herbs and you're not going to do a whole like rosemary pesto. That might be too much, but a few little sprigs. And the herbs are some of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet, actually, like herbs and spices. Amazing. And of
It's
course, we
amazing.
don't.
And I love to hear that because I remember, I think I said this before one time when we were talking earlier, which is more like it's the gateway green. I always call it like it's the,
Totally,
you
totally.
start with that, right?
Yeah,
Because
and that's
yeah.
kind of my next
Mhm.
one is just like add herbs, right? And like again, you have a lot of herbs in your walls and
Yep.
those are things you provide, but like if you can just like, add some herbs. I mean, sometimes they're not going to be fresh, but if you can use the fresh ones, and here's my recommendation, like, with your walls, you can grow some different herbs, which is wonderful. You can have
Mhm.
herbs like on your counter, you can have them in your garden. You can also buy them, at the market. But when you buy them at the market, okay, unless you have a plan to use them all, because everybody always says, oh, I buy them and then they get funky and they go bad. So
Yeah.
buy them, and sometimes they even have the roots. So if they have the roots, you can plant them.
That's true.
But if they don't have the roots, like when you buy them, leave them out. Sometimes I'll just leave them out on like a plate or a bowl or some kind of whatever you want to dry it in and just let it sit out because it's going to be, then you're going to use it fresh and then you're going to use it dried. So when I go out to my garden and harvest like a few herbs, like
Yeah.
I have some right now that I just picked yesterday,
Mhm.
instead of putting them in the fridge in a plastic bag to get funky, I
Yep.
use them fresh for the next few days, but whatever I don't use is going to dry and then I can do something else with them.
That is so true. And it's funny, without you even telling me that, I've started doing that because, of course, I get a lot of herbs. And so I'm constantly cutting them back and then I just put them on my counter. And then you're right, it's so great because then I crinkle them into, as I'm making a salad dressing, I'll
Yes.
get some sage and just yeah, yeah,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. And then the other thing that I think is a great way to think about eating more greens is to have a mindset of a salad a day, right?
Mm,
A
mm,
salad a day. If
yeah,
you can eat a salad a day, then you're getting fresh greens like that are going to totally support you with that,
yep,
right? And
right.
that is, and then, it's so funny because in one of my communities, one of my beloved Vitality members, and she's like telling me about her salad. When she's telling me, she's like, it's like an extreme salad, and it is. And, I'm teaching a salad bar, cooking class tomorrow because like if we can kind of set ourselves up for success and then it's easy to have a salad a day, especially this time of year, and if somebody's like, oh, I can't eat raw stuff, then maybe it's a saute or a steamed or stir fried a day, whatever. But like that's
Right.
a good mantra and mindset to have.
Yep. Oh, that's so great. And I will tell you, I started experimenting with my salads where I start putting like different nuts in it and different kinds of like
Yes.
even cheeses, you know what I mean? Just to kind of mix
Yes.
up the taste a
Extreme
little bit.
salad. Like
Yeah.
you can play with it in so many different ways. And
Yeah.
then my last tip is kind of a one that's near and dear to my heart. And it's funny, I already mentioned my friend Miriam today, but I have a dear friend who passed away, and I met her when I was in my early 20s. And I ended up living next door to her, and she was kind of like the grandmother to my daughter,
Nice.
or a second grandmother
Yeah.
or third. But anyways,
Yeah.
she had a garden, and it was really before I had, I was very new to gardening, and
Mhm.
and it wasn't like this perfect garden where they were eating out of it every night, and it wasn't, it was like kind of just like a raw rustic, maybe some
Yeah.
things did well, something, right? It wasn't like this professional because I'd seen some of those. So I asked her, I was like, do you always eat out of your garden? And her response was, I always have a little bit of something, right? A little bit of something fresh. So even if you're just going out and maybe that's all you have, maybe you're like, oh, these guys aren't looking great, and you just pick like 2 leaves or a few sprigs and you chop them up and you put them fresh on your meal, like you're
Yeah.
bringing that in, right? And kind of, really to back up what you said, you might have this whole meal, but maybe those greens that are there were picked 2 weeks ago, or this was there, and
Mhm.
then all of a sudden you're just putting this thing that is just alive still,
Yeah.
completely just picked, and you're get that extra little yum and
Yep.
flavor and nutrient density. So I think that is like, again, you don't have to have a huge professional garden. But
Mhm.
if you can add a little something fresh every day, which is what I love about the wall, because you could probably
Yeah.
just like be like click, blip, 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 blip.
Yep.
Yeah, and then just put it in there, and you're gonna have
Yeah.
this relationship with your wall, with your little, maybe even just your little like, herb
Right.
from Trader Joe's,
Little herb
whatever
kit
it
that
is.
you've got. Yeah. Or yeah. Yeah. Well, and what's I'm so glad you said that too, because like, for instance, winter, we're coming out of that now, but it's a slower growing time. Right. And so I will take exactly your philosophy you just talked about. And I said, okay, so maybe I don't have full on harvest greens at the moment because they're just growing slower, but I'm like, it's okay. I'm going to go in there and, one side of these walls has 18 plants on it and, two sides, 36. But I'll be like, okay, and I can only grow on one side in the winter because of where the sun is located. So I'm like, no problem. I just go there and I take like 2 leaves from basically every plant, boom. And then I might then supplement with some greens that I got at the farmer's market, a few days earlier. And then I'm like, okay, right. It's like, I've got that. Yeah. And so it works. And you feel good because you're like, okay, I'm getting that. And
Yes.
you taste it and you know what? You feel it. You feel the
Yeah.
energy, you
And
know?
and you also are like, you're out there, you're going up to these like alive, it's like they're
They're
not your
alive.
pets, but
Yeah.
like you're
Yeah.
like, you have this relationship. They're taking care of you, you're taking care of them. They're
Yeah.
thriving when you're caring for it. So the more you kind of come and visit,
Hmm.
the garden, the wall, whatever, it's like, it's kind of like house plants. Like, you know, I haven't always been a good houseplant person, but now that I'm home more, work from home, and
Yeah.
I kind of took over my daughter's houseplants when she moved out. And so I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
I think I got this thing now. You know,
I mean, look at that behind you. It's growing. You got a
yes. And now
tropical.
she's like, I want it back. And I'm like, actually, that's not, no.
No,
There's like a
no,
little
it's
one coming
mine.
out. I'm like, you can have the little one.
You can
Mine
have the
now.
cup. Oh, I love it. Oh, that's great.
Anyway.
Oh, very good. Well, gosh, thank you so much, Mary Sheila. I know we've kind of gone longer than we intended, but I think it's all wonderful, valuable information. So good.
Yes,
So
thank you so much for having me. I love what you're doing. I love that you're connecting people to their food. I love the greens, I mean, are so vibrant. Every time I see you and just see all those greens, and I know you, and the other thing I just want to say and give you like kudos to about is just and I learned a lot from you actually when you were on my summit, a couple of years ago, and you did a little bonus, which was around like caring for the plants and the soil. And like, that is like the soil, our top soil, that is the earth's microbiome. You know, like we know we can't live without our microbiome, and then we know that the earth needs its microbiome. So the fact that you're not just like, you know, sending out dirt, but you actually have all these amendments and layers and understand, like you have that understanding, and like that is what's gonna then, I mean, and again, look at the plants behind you. So thank you for really like taking the time to educate people on what you're doing about the importance of the soil and the aliveness and all the layers that it needs. And that's like, that's next level. That's like the whole regenerative farming and the Rodale Institute and the Regenerative Organic Alliance, like, and what you're doing, like, this is what's going to, you know, again, our health and the planet's health. It's like, we all need to take care of our own health, and we need our soils. So thank you for being
oh,
a
well, gosh.
soil tender.
Oh my gosh. I was going to say, well, thank you for acknowledging that too, because I think that is so important. And I think what's interesting too is like you've got so many great organizations that are supporting the farms that are wanting to move to regenerative. And then, you know, I kind of feel like my mission is, okay, you know what? Now we're all these individuals, right? And consumers out there that we want to kind of do something. What can we do? It's like, well, let's, you know, grow what we can at home, and let's go and support the
Yes.
farmers markets and talk to them about it. You know, talk to our farmers. How, you know, what are you doing with your soil? You know, how are you feeding your soil? You know, how are you, you know, so it's all of that. It's so important. So just coming at it from a different angle.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, well, great. So guys, everybody, make sure to download the I think it's in the link there, right in the comments.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and we'll put that, we'll send that, I'm going to send that out to my email subscribers too, because I think that's so important. And also too, I just want you to give a little plug about your Vitality membership, because I think that's a great service that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a year-long membership. It's we just finished earlier. I had a skills session. We do a skills session each month. Each month has a different topic. You can go to my website, Occidental Nutrition, but it's really, it's like it's my little baby. It's
Yeah.
just amazing group of people that in community that like everybody's like, yeah, I want to learn. I want to, you know, get healthier. And I'm so lucky to have these amazing people that just, you know, want to really step into vitality. Yeah.
Well, and you're such an educator, and you make it so easy, right? That, I mean, it's, yeah, it's so wonderful that you're doing. So thank you for that.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much, Mary Sheila.
You're
Everybody have a
welcome.
great
Thanks,
weekend.
Christy.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Signing off.